I never thought I'd be the guy writing about this kind of betrayal, but here we are. My name's Jake, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 5 years now. We were supposed to get married in a month. Things seemed normal, or so I thought. She was a little bitchy at times, but I figured that was just her personality. She could be sweet, sure, but mostly she'd snap at me if I didn't do things her way. Honestly, I always knew she had a bit of an edge, but I never suspected it'd lead to something this rotten. Looking back, there were some signs. She'd be distant sometimes, cancel plans last minute, or get weird when I'd ask about her phone. I told myself she was just stressed, busy with work, or maybe she needed her space. But lately, she started acting different. She'd hide her phone more, text late at night, and I caught her lying about where she was, said she was at her sister's or running errands. But I'd find her chatting with someone on Snapchat or Messenger when I glanced at her phone. She'd get defensive if I asked about it, told me I was paranoid or jealous. Yeah, classic. Then came the day I found the real proof. I was supposed to pick up her dress from the dry cleaner, but I got there early. I was just curious, honestly. I noticed her phone buzzing nonstop and she wasn't there. So I went into her purse. A dumb mistake, I know, but I was desperate to see what was going on. I saw a bunch of messages from someone named Mike. The way she'd talk about him, like she couldn't get enough of him, like she was obsessed. There were texts about meeting up, about finally getting closure, which I thought was weird enough, but then I saw a picture of her in a hotel room, clearly not with her sister, and she was topless. I could see her face and it hit me like a punch. I froze, my stomach dropped. I didn't say a word, just stared at the screen for a long time. My mind spun. Was this real? Was she really cheating on me? With my best man, no less. The guy I trusted the most after her. The guy I knew would be standing beside me at the altar. I felt sick. My hands trembled. I wanted to throw up. All those months of her pretending everything was fine, hiding her lies. I thought I knew her. I thought we were solid. Turns out I was blind. I didn't confront her right then. I just took the phone, slipped it into my pocket, and left. I needed to process what I saw, but I knew I couldn't ignore it. That feeling like my world was crumbling, it stayed with me all day. I couldn't focus, couldn't eat. I kept replaying the images, the texts, the betrayal, and the worst part. She's always been manipulative, bitchy when she doesn't get her way, and I knew she'd deny or spin some crazy story. That's her style. She's the queen of lies, always has been. I just didn't see how deep it went until I saw that message. I kept telling myself, no way, this can't be happening. But deep down, I knew I had to face her. I had to know the truth straight from her mouth. I waited until she got home that evening, acting normal like everything was fine, but I wasn't fooling myself anymore. I was preparing for the storm. I was about to find out how much she'd lie, how much she'd manipulate, and how far she'd go to keep her secrets. I didn't know what I'd say, what I'd do. All I knew was I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. When Lisa walked through the door, she looked just as she always did, perfectly polished, with that bitchy smirk that she thought was charming but actually made me want to punch her. She greeted me like nothing was wrong, as if she hadn't been sneaking around behind my back for months. I looked at her, my heart pounding in my chest, and I knew I had to get this out in the open. I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Hey babe," she said, tossing her designer bag onto the couch. "How was your day?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. She arched an eyebrow, that familiar bitchy look, and crossed her arms. "About what?" I pulled out my phone, the one I'd snuck into my pocket earlier, and unlocked it. I hesitated for a second, then handed it to her. "Look at this," I said, my voice low but firm. I watched her face change as she saw the messages, the photos. Her eyes widened and her mouth opened, then closed again. She looked genuinely caught off guard, at least for a second. "Where did you get that?" she snapped, trying to snatch the phone back. I held on to it, refusing to let her hide. "You've been lying to me, Lisa. All those times I asked where you were, who you were with. I found out you've been sleeping with Mike, haven't you?" Her face twisted and she spat. "That's none of your business. It was just sex, Jake. I needed closure. I was confused and you were ignoring me. It's not a big deal, just a stupid mistake." I felt my blood boil. A stupid mistake, sleeping with my best man, Lisa. That's not a mistake, that's betrayal. How long has this been going on? Are there more guys? Or is it just him? She rolled her eyes, her bitchy smirk returning. You're overreacting. You always do. It was one night and honestly I was drunk. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. I was going to tell you eventually. Yeah, right, I'd heard enough lies. I stared at her, feeling the rage bubbling inside me. How could she sit there and lie so casually? Like her betrayal was some minor inconvenience. She's always been that way, slick, manipulative, a master at twisting words and making me doubt myself. But I wasn't going to let her play me anymore. I wanted the truth, raw and real. Lisa, I said, voice trembling slightly, you've been lying about everything. About where you've been, who you've been with, and now I find out you slept with my best man. How do you even sleep at night? She sneered, oh please, don't go all emotional on me. You're not some saint, Jake. You think I don't see the way you look at other women, or how you're always distant. Maybe I was just doing what I needed to do to feel alive. Don't pretend you're innocent here. That made me angry, so I snapped, don't try to turn this around on me. I'm not the one cheating, Lisa. I loved you, I trusted you. And you, I paused, voice cracking, you just threw that all away for some sick, fucked up fling. She shrugged, acting dismissive. Whatever, I don't care what you think. I told you I needed closure, I was confused, and I thought maybe I'd feel better after sleeping with him. Turns out I was right, it's over now, we're done. I stared at her, stunned. My mind was racing. Was this really happening? Did she really just admit to everything? Or was she just trying to manipulate me again? All the pain, the disbelief, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized I'd been living a lie, one I'd accepted because I didn't want to believe the woman I loved could do this to me. But now I knew. The truth had come out and I was left standing there, betrayed, humiliated, and furious. The room felt cold, like I'd been thrown into an ice bath. I looked at her, so confident, so bitchy, so utterly selfish. I knew I had a choice then. I could lose myself in anger, or I could start thinking about what's next. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my shaking hands. The thing was, I didn't want her to see how much she'd hurt me, at least not yet. I needed time to process, to decide whether to fight for this or just walk away. In that moment, I realized my world was shattered. All because she couldn't keep her legs closed, or her mouth shut, or her lies straight. All because she wanted some stupid closure that cost me everything. And yet part of me still hoped she'd come crawling back, begging for forgiveness. But I knew better. Whatever happened next, I'd never be the same again. After she finished her little monologue, I just stared at her, trying to keep my cool. Inside, I was boiling over. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, then kicked when I was down. My mind was spinning, trying to make sense of everything. The girl I thought I knew, the woman I was about to marry, she'd been lying to my face for months. All those signs, all those weird moments, suddenly made sense in the worst way. I knew I had to act, but I also knew I couldn't do anything reckless. That doesn't mean I didn't want to. I wanted to scream, curse her out, break something, but I kept my voice steady and cold. I told her, you're a liar, Lisa. You think you can just tell some bullshit about needing closure and then sleep around behind my back. That's not closure, that's betrayal. You don't get to come back from this, ever. She rolled her eyes again, that bitchy expression she loved to wear. You're overreacting. It's just sex. People do stupid things. I'm not some angel, you know. I've made mistakes and I've told you I'm sorry, but you're acting like I committed murder or something. I felt the rage boil up again. It's not just about the sex, Lisa. It's about trust, about honesty. You've been lying to me for months, acting like everything's perfect while you're sneaking around. You think you can just erase all that with a sorry and some pathetic excuse. You're a selfish, manipulative bitch. She scoffed, crossing her arms again. Whatever, Jake, I don't need to explain myself to you. I did what I had to do. I needed to feel alive and clearly you're not giving me that. I was supposed to marry you, but honestly I don't even know if I want it anymore. That was it, the final straw. My heart clenched so hard I thought it might explode. I looked at her and saw the same cold, bitchy woman I'd always known, but this time I saw her for what she really was, a liar, a cheat, a manipulator. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, was just a mask she'd worn to hide her true self. I told her, you know what, Lisa, you can go. I don't want to hear your excuses anymore. I don't want to see you. Don't bother trying to contact me. I'll be packing up my stuff tomorrow. And when I do, I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are. A liar, a cheater, a selfish bitch. Her face twisted into a sneer, but I didn't care. I had already made up my mind. I was done. Done with her lies, done with her manipulation. done with pretending I didn't see her for what she was. I turned around and headed for the door, feeling the weight of her betrayal settle deep in my chest. As I grabbed my coat, she yelled after me, "You're making a mistake, Jake. You'll regret this. You're just insecure. You're not man enough to handle the truth." I didn't bother answering. I just walked out, shutting the door behind me. The cold air hit my face, and I felt a strange mix of relief and despair. I knew I'd never forget what I'd seen, but I also knew I couldn't keep living in this lie anymore. This wasn't the woman I'd fallen for. This was someone else entirely, someone manipulative, selfish, and utterly unworthy of my love. That night I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. My mind kept circling back to that picture, to her words, to the fact that I'd been played for a fool. I wondered if I'd ever fully trust again. I wondered how I'd pick up the pieces of my shattered heart. Most of all, I wondered how I'd move on from a betrayal like this, knowing the woman I thought I knew was just a lie I'd believed for too long. The days that followed were a blur. I threw myself into work trying to keep my mind off everything, but it was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that photo. Every time I tried to sleep, her voice echoed in my head, telling me it was just sex, that she needed closure, that she was confused. None of it made sense anymore. How could someone I loved so much turn out to be this cold, manipulative, selfish person? I kept asking myself over and over, how did I not see it sooner? I remember the moment I finally decided to confront my best man, Mark. I trusted him, leaned on him during tough times, and now I found out he'd been sleeping with my wife. It felt like a punch to the gut every time the thought crossed my mind. I set up a meeting with him at a bar, my stomach tight and my hands trembling. I needed to hear it from him, straight up. No lies, no excuses. When Mark arrived, the look on his face was guilty before he even said a word. He sat down, avoiding eye contact, and finally mumbled, "Jake, I didn't mean for it to go this far. It just happened. I was drunk that night. Lisa was there, and she was so damn bitchy, always pushing me, pushing everyone around. She was so bitchy, so demanding. I guess I just got caught up in that moment. It was stupid. I messed up, all right." I stared at him, feeling my chest tighten. My best friend, the guy I trusted with everything, had slept with the woman I was about to marry. How could I not feel like my world was falling apart again? I wanted to lash out, to hit something, but I just clenched my fists and looked him dead in the eyes. "You knew I was about to get married, Mark," I said coldly. "You knew I trusted you, and you still fucked my wife behind my back. How do you sleep at night?" He looked down, ashamed. "I don't sleep well, Jake, trust me. I never wanted to hurt you, but Lisa, she's a manipulative bitch. She can make anyone do what she wants. She told me she was just doing this for closure, that it didn't mean anything, but I know she's good at lying. I'm sorry, man, I really am." I felt like I was about to lose it. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered if I'd ever recover. I told him, "You're dead to me, Mark. You're supposed to be my best man. You're supposed to support me, not sleep with my wife. I don't want to see you again." He nodded silently, clearly regretful but helpless. I told him to leave, and I watched him go, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. My mind kept flashing back to all the moments I'd shared with Lisa. Her bitchy smirk, her lies, the way she'd twist everything around to make herself the victim. I felt sick. How had I been so blind? The worst part was the realization that I had no control over what had happened, the betrayal, the lies, the emotional wreckage. I'd loved her, trusted her, and she'd turned out to be someone I didn't even recognize. All those promises, all those dreams of a future, shattered in an instant. I was left standing in the ruins of what I thought was a life built on love and honesty. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, feeling hollow and betrayed. I wondered if I'd ever look at her the same way again. Could I forgive her? Could I ever trust anyone again after this? The pain was overwhelming, and I knew that nothing would be the same. I'd been played for a fool, and worse, I'd been blind to it for months. The only thing I knew for sure was that I was done pretending everything was okay. I had to face the reality. My marriage was over before it even started, and I was left to pick up the shattered pieces of my heart. The weeks that followed were a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I'd always thought I was a pretty straightforward guy. Work hard, trust the people you love, keep your head down. But losing Lisa and the betrayal by Mark shattered that image. I started questioning everything I believed in, questioning myself, wondering how I'd missed all the signs, how I'd let things get this far without seeing the truth. I kept replaying every moment, every conversation, every glance she'd ever given me. It all felt like a lie now. One morning, I decided I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I needed to take control of the situation. So I called a lawyer and started the process of dividing what was supposed to be our life. I knew I deserved better than this, better than a bitchy wife who cheated on me with my best man and then lied about it for months. I also wanted to make her regret it in some way, to see her sweat, to know she didn't get away with it. I also made a point to dig into her phone and social media, just to see if she was still lying or hiding anything. I found she'd been contacting Mike even after I caught her trying to hold on to that affair. She told me she was done, that she was over it, but the truth was she couldn't let go. She kept messaging him, trying to keep that sick connection alive. She was the same manipulative bitch I'd always known, lying, twisting, pretending to be the victim. Meanwhile, I started hanging out more with my friends, even seeing a therapist to help process everything. I realized I'd been holding on to hope that she'd change, that she'd somehow realize what she'd lost, but that hope was fading fast. I knew I had to face the harsh reality. She was a liar, a cheat, and a manipulator who didn't deserve my trust. The idea of moving on seemed impossible at first, but I knew I couldn't keep living in the past. One particularly cold evening, I finally confronted her again. She had the nerve to call me, trying to apologize, again, saying she was sorry for everything, that she still loved me, blah, blah, blah. I cut her off right there, told her I didn't want to hear her lies anymore, that I was done being the fool. I told her that I'd file for divorce, that I'd move forward without her. I wanted her to feel the pain she'd put me through, to see that her manipulations hadn't broken me, but that they'd made me stronger. It hurt, yeah. It hurt more than I can put into words. But deep inside, I knew I had no choice. I couldn't stay with a woman who lied and cheated and expected me to just forget. I had to take back control of my life, rebuild myself, and find someone who actually deserved my love and respect. I guess what hurt most was the realization that I'd wasted years on someone who only cared about herself, someone who could look me in the eyes and lie so effortlessly. Looking back now, I see how naive I was, how I let her manipulate me, how I ignored the signs because I loved her. But I also see that I'm stronger than I thought. I'm angry, sure, betrayed and broken in some ways, but I'm also determined. I won't let her win. I'll rebuild, I'll move on, and I'll find someone who actually appreciates me for who I am, not some manipulative, bitchy woman who only cares about herself. And honestly, I've learned the hard way that trust isn't something you give lightly anymore. I'll never be naive again. I'll watch for the warning signs and I'll take care of myself first. Because nobody, no matter how much I love them, deserves to treat me like I was some fool. I deserve better. We all do. It's been a few months since I kicked Lisa out and filed for divorce. Honestly, it's been a roller coaster, but I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. The pain of betrayal doesn't go away overnight, but with time it gets a little easier to breathe. I've learned a lot through this whole mess, mostly about myself. I realized I'd been blind, but now I see clearly. Trust isn't something you hand out blindly anymore. You've got to protect yourself, watch for the signs, and never ignore your gut. Looking back, I think the biggest lesson is that people can surprise you, sometimes in really terrible ways. I thought Lisa was the love of my life, that I'd found my forever. Turns out she was just a manipulative bitch hiding behind a pretty face. I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I was broken, but I picked myself up piece by piece. I cut out everything that reminded me of her: social media, mutual friends, even some places we used to go. It hurt at first, but I knew I had to do it to heal. Now I focus on myself. I hit the gym more often, started seeing a therapist regularly, and spent more time with my family and friends. The best thing I did was to rebuild my confidence. I refused to let her define me or steal my happiness, because I realized that her betrayal doesn't have to ruin me, it can make me stronger. I learned to trust myself, to listen to my instincts, and to believe that I deserve someone who will treat me right. As for the future, I don't know what's ahead. Maybe I'll find someone new someday, someone who values honesty and loyalty. Maybe I'll stay single for a while and focus on me. Either way, I'm not rushing. I've got a lot of healing to do, and I know now that I'm better off without a toxic person in my life. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust your feelings. Don't ignore the red flags. And if you find out someone you love has been lying and cheating, don't waste years trying to fix something that's broken beyond repair. Cut your losses, pick yourself up, and remember, you're worth more than someone who manipulates and betrays you. I don't regret what happened, because if I hadn't gone through it, I wouldn't be where I am now, stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever life throws next. I finally see that sometimes the biggest betrayal can be a blessing in disguise. It forces you to see your worth and pushes you to build a better life for yourself, one where honesty and respect aren't just words, they're what you demand.